Oh, yes, it is Anthony Rivera here with you, talking about all the news and happenings surrounding that team from Queens, the New York Mets. It's a Subway to Shea series preview, and I told you I'd be doing these series previews now as a part of a more recorded form. We will definitely have a show on and the podcast on live when that streams, but these series previews are going to be short. Going to talk about the both teams, the tail of the tape, pitching probables, just the way we did it on the live shows, but now it's going to be recorded for you guys to enjoy. I appreciate everyone that tunes in here. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the Subway to Shea channel and subscribe to Subway to Shea podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And we're going to get right into it as the New York Mets get ready to take on the San Francisco Giants at Citi Field. The Mets get ready to start their homestand. Let's look at the tail of the tape. The Mets struggling here, got swept in Cleveland, are now 21-28, fourth in the National League East, and struggling, like I said, big time. The San Francisco Giants are in third place right now in the NL West, 24-26. You look at both batting averages here. San Francisco a little bit better, 248 to the Mets, 237. The Mets are ahead of them, though, in home runs, 51-45. Close in RBIs, 198 to 200. Stolen bases, the Mets have way more, 34 to San Francisco 16, which is going to become big into play, especially if the Mets start walking these guys. Are San Francisco going to take more chances at stealing bases? And then you look at the OPS, kind of close, kind of similar, but the Giants lead in that area 699 to the Mets 684. You go into the pitching, the ERA, Mets have better ERA 4.08 right now to the Giants 4.47, but the pitching probables this week, which we're going to get into shortly, a little bit different. Got the best of the Giants coming at the Mets this weekend, so we'll see if anything changes in that front. The Mets lead in strikeouts 436 over the Giants 410. And obviously the Mets, who are probably the worst in the league, I would assume. I got to check that out. That's the one stat I didn't check, how bad the Mets are in the league in walks, but they are 213 to the San Francisco Giants. It's only 159. So good for them. I wish the Mets only gave up 159 walks, but we are here. That's going to be big, right? If the Mets walk the Giants batters, are they going to be more tempted to steal bases? We're going to see. That's going to be a big part of this weekend and seeing if that happens. So I'm going to keep my eye, and you should keep your eye on that as well when it comes to these two teams. Let's go into now the pitching probables for this series. And you have Christian Scott going in game one against Kyle Harrison on Friday night. 0-2, 4.32 ERA for Christian Scott. He has not gotten his first career win yet. The Mets have not scored for him, but also he was not great in his last start in Miami. That was probably his worst start out of the three that he has pitched in so far. Kyle Harrison, 4-1 with a 3.60 ERA. Concern here is he's a lefty, and the Mets struggle against lefties. So I would assume also Harrison Bader, who's been hot right now, he'll be in the lineup for that game. But the Mets got to start hitting these lefties and stop making them look like they're Randy Johnson. We'll see if the Mets can do that on Friday night. You go to Saturday's game, which I will be in attendance for. Luis Severino, 2-2, 3.48 ERA against Jordan Hicks, 4-1 with a 2.38 ERA. This is one of those matchups I'm definitely, actually, every match in this series is one to watch. Now, I don't know how it's going to play out for the Mets. I don't know how well they're going to play, but if you're looking for good pitching matchups, this is the series. This is the series we're going to see it. The Mets have been good with their starting pitching, especially these three that are up right now, and so have these three for the San Francisco Giants. Jordan Hicks was a converted reliever. I know he came from St. Louis, then went to Toronto as a reliever, and now he is going to be he has been starting for the San Francisco Giants. Then you look at Sean Manaea, who will be going on the mound for the Mets on Sunday, 3-1 with a 3.11 ERA. He will be taking on Logan Webb, who's 4-4 with a 3.03 ERA. I couldn't remember, and maybe you guys can tell me in the comments below, if Logan Webb had a really good start against the Mets when they were in San Francisco. I think he did. But this is another matchup that I'm very interested in seeing between the Mets and the Giants. So the pitching matchups are there. They look pretty decent. They look pretty good. And I'm excited to see that. I know the Mets brand of baseball has not been good over the last 2 months, or to even just start the entire season. They had one little good stretch, and they haven't been good since then. They've lost a lot of series. I think they're 9-20 in their last 29 games. And I mean, they got to be better. They got to be better than what we're seeing. There's a lack of fundamentals. They're getting caught out on the base paths, bad running plays, bad defense. And when the pitching is good, the hitting is not. When the hitting is good, the pitching is not. And that's what we saw all throughout the series against the Cleveland Guardians. So the Mets have a lot to work on, some matchups to look into, because not a lot of these guys have faced each other. And I like to take away at least some at bats that are maybe more towards 15 to 20 or more at bats. So one of them is Starling Marte. Will be facing Logan Webb on Sunday. Look to see him in the lineup, batting 467, 1.00 OPS in 15 at bats against Logan Webb. That's a matchup to check out for the Mets on Sunday. And another one on Sunday, this goes the other way. It's for Wilmer Flores, former Met, one of my favorite all-time Mets. Always got a soft spot for Wilmer Flores in my heart. And he's batting 348, one home run, .810 OPS in 23 at-bats versus Sean Manaea. So keep an eye out on Wilmer Flores on the other end. Now, I like to do a segment where I do like the who's hot, who's not from both teams. And actually just from the Mets right now. Who's hot, who's not from the Mets. And right now, I kind of call this segment the ripe and rotten. So who's hot obviously is who's ripe right now. Who's rotten will be who's not. Who's ripe right now? Jeff McNeil, 304 batting average, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, and a 9.42 OPS in his last 7 days. If you know him, he's changed his bat. He's got the knobless bat again, and now he's starting to hit better. I don't know why he got rid of it in the first place. Should have kept that, and now he's brought it back, and look at that. Now he's hitting a lot better. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, grip, whatever. I don't care. He has 2 home runs. He's got 5 RBIs, and I want to see him play a lot better, and he has been doing that at the plate. Who's rotten on the offense right now? Tyrone Taylor's been struggling. He's been good so far this season, but he's struggling over the last 7 days. Got a 133 batting average, 2 RBIs, and 3.88 OPS. Obviously, Tyrone Taylor doesn't play every day, but he's been getting a lot of at-bats here, and we know that he's better than what he's shown over the last 7 days, so he's struggling a little bit. Hope to see him come out of it in this series against the San Francisco Giants. Who's ripe on the pitching side of things? Sean Reed-Foley, 0 ERA, 1.50 whip, 3 strikeouts in 2 innings pitched. Just what you need coming out of that bullpen. You got some guys struggling. You're not going to have Brooks Raley anymore for the season. He's done. Edwin Diaz has struggled and kind of lost his closer role. So your 2 best relievers, the Mets are kind of, I don't want to say without, because Edwin Diaz is still there, but Edwin Diaz has got to get his head right. He's got to get himself back on track so that we can see more of what was that 22 like Edwin Diaz. Not saying that guy's returning, but we want to see that closer return. And he's been struggling. Like I said, Brooks Raley is done for the year, going to have Tommy John surgery. We still don't have Drew Smith back, but at least for the time being, Reed Garrett, guys like Jorge Lopez, as well as Sean Reed-Foley. Like I said, Sean Reed-Foley, Reed Garrett, Jorge Lopez, those guys have been stellar out of the bullpen this season. Someone who's not been stellar over the last weekend is going to take on a lot of the load with Brooks Raley gone. Jake Diekman, Jake Diekman with a 7.71 ERA, 2 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 home runs, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts in his last 2.1 innings pitched. Now, I put him on here. Obviously, the ERA has not been great, but he is going to be shouldering the load while Brooks Raley is out for the rest of the season. He's the lefty out of the pen, and you can't even bring up Nate Lavender because he's also out for the season. And I know they got Josh Walker out there, but the Mets are going to have to rely on the veteran Jake Diekman to get things done. He's going to have to. I mean, he is the main guy, the main lefty coming out of the pen, and we need to see better from him. So he's a guy that definitely needs to turn it around, and I think he will. He has the track record, and I assume that he'll be able to get out of it. Last thing before we wrap up here, a couple of San Francisco Giants to watch out for. 1, Matt Chapman, 11 for his last 18, 5 doubles, 2 home runs, and 5 RBIs with a 6.11 batting average, a 1.930 OPS in his last 7 days. That's on the offense. Pitching. It's a starter. Jordan Hicks, 1-0 with a 1.80 ERA, 0.80 whip in his last start. So Jordan Hicks is going to be a problem if the Mets can't get their offense going. But I thank you for joining me for this series preview for the Mets and the San Francisco Giants. I keep wanting to say San Francisco 49ers. I don't know why. But the Mets and the Giants start Friday night, go Saturday and Sunday, 3 games set. Make sure that you are tuned in and locked in to Subway to Shea. Like the video. Subscribe on YouTube. Like it says on the bottom, follow on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Subway to Shea. You can follow me on Twitter as well at Rivera86. And like I said, please subscribe on YouTube. That wraps it up for this series preview. I look forward to seeing you for the next one when the Mets take on the Los Angeles Dodgers. But for now, this has been Anthony Rivera. And always remember, let's go Mets.
This is a Willets Point Shea Stadium bound 7 express train. The next and last stop is Willets Point Shea Stadium.